Hello, welcome back to my channel. So last night I decided to spend some time reading some Anton Chekhov short stories. When I am not quite sure what I want to read, or I just want some really short but incredibly entertaining stories, I often turn to the works of Chekhov. I find his writing very humorous, very easy to understand, especially of Russian writers. I feel that he is a very simple and clear, concise writer, and it's very easy to consume his stories. And so I just spent a couple hours reading through a complete works of Anton Chekhov that I have on my Kindle. It has all of his short stories, all of his longer works, just sort of compiled into one ebook that you can easily access. And so I was just reading through about 6 of his different short stories, just picking through which ones looked interesting. I've already read a decent handful of his stories, and so I just went through the list of the ones I hadn't read yet and just sort of picked the titles that looked interesting. And I wanted to talk about one particular short story that I read, and it was called Joy. And it was an incredibly humorous story that I wanted to make a quick video about it. It's one of the shortest of his short stories that I have read. It contains a single episode, a single moment in time. It's honestly only about a page or a page and a half long, but it's such an interesting story, and it's incredibly humorous. Essentially, the story is about a young man a teenager really, who comes bursting into his parents' apartment late at night, and he is completely flushed with joy, completely ecstatic. He is just beaming with happiness, and it's late at night. He bursts into this apartment. 2 of his younger brothers are already asleep. His sister is laying in bed finishing a novel, and his parents are also asleep in bed. The apartment is dark, and he is just sort of tearing circles around this apartment, running like crazy, and he's holding a newspaper, and he's shouting and exclaiming things, and he wakes his brothers up. His sister throws her book down and comes out wrapped in a blanket to come see what's going on. His parents come out of bed. They want to see what's going on. They're all grumpy with him that he's causing such a stir late at night. What is he doing home at this time, and where has he been? And he can barely speak. He's so excited, and he asks them if they've read the newspaper. And both of the parents say, no, we haven't read the newspaper. We don't keep up with the news. And he gets offended, and he says, there's such wonderful things in the news these days. You should read the news more often. And he hands them this newspaper, and he points them to this story, and it's a story about him earlier that day being caught out in public in this incredibly drunken stupor, so much so that he stumbled into the street and was hit by a cart and a horse. And it knocked him out. It knocked the back of his head, and he was rushed to a police station to receive medical aid. And the story is sort of, the newspaper story is sort of really digging into him of what an idiot he is. He got completely drunk in the middle of the day, stumbled in front of a cart and horse, and got clonked in the back of the head, and like, what an idiot this guy is. And the story is incredibly negative toward him, obviously, but he is so excited because he keeps proclaiming how everyone in Russia will now know his name. And before, only his family, only the members of his family knew who he was. And now all of Russia knows of this humble clerk. He's a low-level clerk in the government. And so he's not a very popular person. In the story, it doesn't sound like he has a large group of people around him, but so now he is so excited that everyone will know who he is, and it's all because of this incredibly embarrassing episode that he doesn't seem to be very bothered by. He doesn't seem worried that his popularity is because of the fact that he was so drunk that he fell in front of a carriage in the middle of the road in the afternoon. And all he seems to care about is the fact that people will now know who he is, and he is famous because he's in the newspaper, and what a big deal that is. And the story ends essentially with him taking the newspaper back from his parents and running out of the apartment, back headed somewhere else to tell other people that he knows about his moment of fame being in the newspaper. And like I said, it's an incredibly short story. It can't be more than a couple of pages, but it's absolutely hilarious. It makes a lot of very interesting points. And it's such a fun read. It's such an interesting scene. There's not a lot of character development, obviously, but the dialogue is quite humorous, and it's quite an enjoyable read, and I would definitely recommend it. So that's a couple of my thoughts on Joy by Anton Chekhov. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.